Hello and welcome to the Pod Well Travelled. I'm Penny Thomas. In the studio with me today is our travel editor, Stephen Scourfield, who has just got back from North India. Welcome to the podcast, Stephen.
Thanks, Penny.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about North India and the Golden Triangle, which is Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. It's sort of all the places that most people have on their bucket lists for India, would you say?
Absolutely. You know, obviously the Taj Mahal in Agra is the draw card. And this Golden Triangle, as you say, Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, gives you, 3 points which in this triangle which give you a really good view into India. You've got Delhi, the big city, Agra, as we say, Taj Mahal and the marble inlaying that goes on, which is related to the Taj Mahal, and then Jaipur, which is just this beautiful pink city, fabrics, amber fort. So it's a great mix.
Yeah, wonderful. And it's a place that you've actually been to quite a few times. So I'm sure you've got lots of tips for anyone listening that has it on their bucket list. Let's just start off with some fast facts about North India. Firstly, most travellers will fly to Delhi, which has sort of a population of 34 million people, which is just hard to imagine when you come from somewhere like Perth in Australia. The whole subcontinent of India has a population of 1.4 billion. And as of June 2023, it was the world's most populous country, and it's the 7th largest by area. The people there are mainly Hindus, but you also get Muslims, Christians, Jains. Sorry, Stephen, did I say that correctly? Jains?
Yes, Jainism is an offshoot of Hinduism.
Okay, right.
Well, let's just say Jains are sort of very committed Hindus, so they don't eat anything that can reproduce, so no nuts, no seeds, and nothing that grows beneath the ground. So there's a lot of leaves involved, but very good traders.
Okay. The official language, I guess, in India is Hindi, but the second official language is also English, and in most cities and bigger towns, that's just what everyone sort of speaks. The best time to visit India, weather-wise, is between October and March, when it's cool and dry, sort of outside the monsoon season. And from December and January, it can be quite chilly in the north of India. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, look out for festivals. So Diwali, the Festival of Light, happens in November, and it can be quite a busy time there. So you were there just recently in November.
Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, well, you've just been talking about population there. So about 800 million Indians live in rural areas. So 70% of the population live in rural areas, a lot of them in quite remote areas. In North India, in the west of Rajasthan, the Thar Desert, which is twice the size of England, full of camels and subsistence farmers. So they'll come into the cities for Diwali. So you can imagine that you've got tens of millions of people adding to that population of 34 officially, but probably about 40 million people in Delhi. So it's just kind of nuts, which is good and bad. I mean, the traffic is shockers, but they all dress up and go to these sites. So they'll go to Rajghat, where Gandhi was cremated, and it'll be full of Indian people visiting their own sites. The Kutab complex, which is a UNESCO site. So there's a big minaret, a big brick minaret, Qutb Minar, and other things to see within this complex, and it'll be full of Indian people in saris and beautiful Nehru jackets and this and that. So, and they all want to have their picture taken with you, because a lot of these people, as I say, have come in from remote rural areas, and they just don't see Westerners. So seeing tall white people and having a picture with them and taking them back to their village is quite a thing to do to show their friends, So, and there's no surreptitious reason for that. They just want to have their picture taken with you. So you meet a lot of locals, whether you like it or not, sort of thing. Everyone wants to talk to you and chat with you and talk English and have their picture taken with you. So the festival times, and then of course November 23rd is the start of wedding season. Mm-hmm. So as you say, in November, which is a good time to be in North India, you come out of Diwali and straight into the wedding season, which goes on till March. And you'll just see weddings everywhere. I mean, tens of thousands. There'll probably be 20,000 weddings in Delhi on a weekend.
Yeah.
So there's just weddings everywhere, celebrations, music, horses, you name it. And it's not difficult to get an invitation to a wedding because it's prestigious, it's auspicious to have guests, interesting guests. So that's another option. So the festival and the celebration, there's always, Hinduism has about a celebration a week, I think, a festival a week. So it's good and bad because it's busier, but that's kind of good as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. Okay, let's talk about how to get to Delhi, I guess. How did you go about it most recently?
Yeah, look, just about every airline you can name flies into Delhi. Obviously, it's such a massive hub for this massive population in India. It's the capital, so whether you're flying Emirates, Qatar, British Airways, Singapore Airlines, they'll all fly into Delhi. Mm-hmm. From Australia, we use Singapore Airlines. Really, is the way in for us. But from the rest of the world, just about everyone goes into Delhi. Quite interestingly, the Indira Gandhi International Airport is this quite well organised, very efficient, calm airport.
Wow. For the amount of people that I presume are going through there.
People go there. It's always weird there because, I mean, the old airport used to be pretty crazy busy, but for some reason, every time I go through this international airport, it's just calm and placid, and your luggage just is there on the belt, and you walk out and you're done. You know, so it's interesting. So it's an easy start.
Yeah, no, that's nice. That's good to hear. And what about getting around India?
Well, the Golden Triangle. So we'll start in Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. It's actually quite easy to book, and it's common to book a car and driver. So, if you're a couple or a couple of solo travellers together or a small group or something, you could book a car. Mm-hmm. I'd probably, you can book a small four-wheel drive, which would be a sort of slightly smaller than a Prado, Indian version of that. I do think, even if there's two or three of you, like a minibus is sort of better because you've got luggage and things, and being in a car's it's quite a small space. Mm-hmm. So it's not hard to book a car, driver, minibus, and that's one way to do it. And they'll stay with you all the way around. So you can have the same driver. They'll stay in a guest house. You stay in your hotel. And that, if you're going to be in Agra for a couple of days, then Jaipur, they'll drive you all the way around. Mm. And then, of course, joining a tour. And I do think that that's a really good way to go here because it's not really small group touring that works here, I think. Mm-hmm. I think if you're in a group of 32, 34, it really works because India's a place with a lot of people and you can be in a big group, in a big coach. So if you're in a 44, 47 seater with 30-something people, you can spread out. You'll be on the expressways. So the new roads in India which connect all of these towns, cities that we've talked about, they're toll roads. So basically all the new roads the locals don't use because they can't afford it.
Right, okay.
So they're empty. So oddly, you get on these toll roads, expressways, and they're relatively empty. And I think just being in a group is fun, and a big group, you can mix and match. You can move around within the group, find people you do like, people you'll have breakfast with once and then possibly not. And that's all pretty easy.
Yeah.
The other thing just to mention, and it's not exactly the Golden Triangle, but the tourist trains in India are really good because they move them at night and every day you get off and do something. So you get off in the morning, and because they're prestigious in Indian society, the guides and everything you do in the day will be great. So you could be in Agra, go to the Taj Mahal, etc., get back on the train. The train moves at night, and then the next day you're somewhere else. Then you come back for dinner, late afternoon, train moves at night, you're somewhere else. So that's a good way. And Palace on Wheels, Maharaja's Express, Deccan Odyssey are all North India train trips. So they're all relevant to this area, not exactly Golden Triangle, but do consider that as well.
Yeah, that's some handy information for people who are considering going to India and specifically the Golden Triangle. What about some highlights from that area?
Okay, yeah, let's go through this. So Delhi, stay in a good hotel. Look, even in a good hotel, and it's the one rule for India, and it's like I don't want to scare people listening to this, but I sort of do want to scare people listening to this. It's all about water. Mm-hmm. So even in good hotels, you come in and there's bottles of water there which are filtered water, not bottled water. Even that, in a good hotel, 5-star hotel, I put in the kettle and boil it.
Okay.
I've only ever showered from the neck down in India. Don't get in your face. It's still the same water source. And even though, for example, I know that the Taj Hotel Group have triple osmosis filters coming in and they're very careful with them. So, it is filtered water, but I'm still careful. Not just with that group. All of the hotels, just get into that practice. You're only going to be there for a couple of weeks. Just be careful. Don't get anything. It's all about water. Big wet salads that have been washed, just don't. Even if you buy bottled water in the street, make sure the little tabs are joined.
Yep.
And it's not a refilled bottle that someone's collected. Just be neurotic about water and you'll be fine. So Delhi, firstly, we're going to be careful about water. Rajghat, which is where Mahatma Gandhi was cremated, as I mentioned. The Gandhi story is so important to the build-up of independence, 1947, 48, that period where India got its independence back. Gandhi, of course, didn't survive to see independence. He was a Hindu leader who was assassinated by Hindus, who thought that he hadn't been tough enough in the deal that was done to get his independence back. It's all part of partition, when the country separated and Muslim followers were sent from the country to, what is now Pakistan and Bangladesh. And that is fundamental to understanding, the world today, but India today. So Rajghat gives you an intro into all of that. Humayun's tomb is a really good place to visit because it's a nice, gentle walk. Humayun's tomb is sort of the precursor. It's almost like a template for the Taj Mahal, built in red sandstone primarily. And it's the start of understanding then this Mughal influence. So then you've got, particularly from Uzbekistan, the Islamic, invasion into the north of India and pushing down and bringing different architecture, bringing this Islamic, the balance that you get in that Islamic architecture. So Humayun's tomb's a good start into all that. The Qutb complex, which I've mentioned, another UNESCO site, QUTUB, has lots of interesting architecture and a lovely place to walk around. National Museum for sure, because it takes you back to the Indus Valley, to the start of the civilization here, to the Harappan culture of that time. You'll see little yoga figures, over 4,000 years old in yoga positions, just done in terracotta.
Wow.
Fantastic. So really worth going to the National Museum for a grounding in it all. For something contemporary, for foodies, Indian Accent restaurant, which is in the Lodhi Hotel, Lodhi Hotel. Indian Accent is consistently voted in the top 10 restaurants in India, quite often number one. And it does a sort of mini degustation, mini banquet lunch. You're probably looking at about $110, $120 US dollars, worth every cent.
Okay.
From you get the first little soup comes in a tiny little, it's about the size of my index finger, a little earthenware vase really with a handle. And from the first sip, you go, wow, this is going to be special. It's a fantastic 2-hour lunch. So Indian accent, must do.
And bookings would be required for
Bookings
that?
required.
Yeah.
Bookings required. So it's one thing to get organised and to put 2.5 hours aside in one day to just sit there quietly and have this beautiful little lunch. That's fantastic. So that's Delhi and traffic, just hanging around. It's fantastic. Then we move on to Agra. It's about a half day's trip to Agra in the car or the coach if you're touring. So you probably leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning and get there for late lunch, just taking it easy. There's places to stop on the way. There's always roadside pull-in motel places with good little shops. The chai masala tea's fine to drink. Anything that's been boiled obviously is good. And stick to bottled drinks and whatever else. But, you can stop on the way. Agra, there's a couple of tricks here. I think that Mehtab Bagh, which is MEHTAB and then another word BAGH, is really important to this because the Taj Mahal, as we all can see the picture in our heads, I'm sure. You can see the picture of the white building with the 4 minarets. That's actually the back. Essentially, that's the back of the Taj Mahal.
Okay.
So when it was built, the Taj, which is, this sort of mausoleum in memory of, a great ruler's wife, as we know, the front of it is actually facing the Yamuna River because the river systems were the transport systems. So that was the Taj Mahal from there. Now, this garden I mentioned, Mehtab Bagh, is over the other side of the river. So you go around over the bridge to the garden, the other side. So essentially you're seeing the Taj Mahal from the front over the river. And it's a fantastic view. So it's a good sunset view. So I think go and see the Taj, the back, which is the front, from the garden, the other side of the river. And then for me, it's still an early morning, despite the air quality, which we can talk about in a moment. It's still an early morning visit's good. So I reckon East Gate, get there early, sort of when it opens. Getting into the Taj is interesting because there's about more than a kilometre of sort of walk in there. You can get electric golf buggies. So if you're less mobile or find that walk a little bit daunting, you can jump in a buggy and pay. But the walk down, there's lots of sort of stalls and things. It's all paved. It's pedestrian apart from the electric buggies and the odd police car or something. But it's a safe sort of long walk down there. And I think setting the scene for it's actually quite good by walking and approaching. It's part of your build up to it. I'll give you one trick when you get in through the main gate, and then there's a sandstone building with an arch, and the Taj Mahal's the other side of that. And if you look, there's a line that comes out. They call it Unveiling the Bride. So if you see this line, black line in the paving, if you go 100 metres away from this gate and you just walk straight up that line, gradually the Taj Mahal is unveiled through this arch. And it's really beautiful to do that quietly on your own. The Taj just is busy, but I think having the people there makes it.
Yeah. We've just come out of the COVID years. Do you reckon that the tourist numbers are back to what they were beforehand? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, across the board.
Yeah.
It's just normal. Everything's just normal, crazy normal. The interesting thing about the Taj Mahal for me is scale, because suddenly you look up on the little platform and you go, gee, those are people. So the scale is massive. We all know the picture, but when you walk up to it and you realise that these ants crawling around it are people, you go, wow, that's something else. But the interesting thing is that the symmetry of the architecture, everybody just walks down the ponds, past the Diana, everyone has the picture on the Diana bench where she sat, Princess Diana sat alone and da-da-da. So you just walk down there, it's just a cram of people. But, the whole point of the Taj is that it's set in a symmetrical garden. And if there's one path which runs parallel two paths, either side of that, which will be pretty well empty. And then there's another path which is another 20 meters to the side, and you'll be there on your own. So you can be 40 meters to one side or the other, and you're on your own looking at the Taj Mahal, sort of framed by trees, which is a really pretty view. So I sort of encourage people to move out to the side and just have a quiet moment, because you don't have to be in the crush all the time, I will say to people, when it's really busy, you go up onto the platform, you put your little shoe covers on. When you get inside the mausoleum, it can be really crushy. So if you're you're inside the Taj Mahal, so that's amazing. But if you're really sensitive to being in a crush with a lot of people and you're there on a busy day, I'd have a big think about whether you actually want to go inside the building or not. I mean, the whole point is seeing it from the outside. So it's just a little warning for people that it can get very squashy in there.
Yeah.
And if you're a bit panicky with those situations, and the whole world's trying to jam into this room, have a think about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, or time your moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Agra's Red Fort. Don't bother with the Red Fort in Delhi. Go to the one in Agra. The Red Fort there is a super visit. Beautiful to walk around, worth the time. And then a real favourite thing for me is about an hour out of Agra is a place called Fatehpur Sikri. This is where Akbar the great Mughal ruler, amazing man, obviously a Muslim, but brought up in a Hindu family. He ended up having a Hindu wife, a Muslim wife, and a Christian wife. Would be a pretty busy household, I think, amongst his wives, I should say. In the 16th century, at Fatehpur Sikri, which is a red fort that you can walk around, there's a room there, there's a separate building there, which is it's probably my favourite room in the world, because Akbar the Great got together all the religious thinkers from all these religions. So Hinduism, Jainism, which we've mentioned, Christianity, obviously Islam, astrology, mystic thinkers, Zen thinkers, and they spent 2 years trying to find commonality in their religions to form a new world religion that they could all adhere to. Brilliant. I love that whole idea, and they lived and worked together for 2 years.
Yeah.
Akbar, unfortunately, died soon after that, and it never got its roots in the ground.
Yeah.
But Fatehpur Sikri is an amazing place to visit. So that's good. Oh, hold on. Now we're in Jaipur. Amber Fort, obviously, Ganesh Gate in the Amber Fort, amazing, because Jaipur famous for the cutting of semi-precious stones. When you cut them, you use water to reduce the heat. You then filter that water and end up with colours that, are applied to plaster. So the colours on the Ganesh Gate are semi-precious stones, lapis lazuli and rubies and whatever else. That's what the paint is.
Yeah.
Stunning. Inside there in the evening, there's a restaurant called 1135 AD, which is the Maharaja's Golden Room eating restaurant now. So you can book and go in there in the evening when Amber Fort is shut. That's pretty amazing. They pick up in Mahindra Jeeps, four-wheel drives, and drive you up into the fort at night when it's all lit.
Wow.
And you're the only ones in there. That's cool. Jaipur, fantastic for fabrics, cotton, block printing. So they cut wooden blocks, print the fabrics by hand, make stuff up, measure you, make it up, deliver it to the hotel that evening, and it fits. Jewelry shops, obviously we've talked about that. The big bazaar is Bapu Bazaar, which is a phrase that's common in Indian cities, but the bazaar in Jaipur is fantastic. I don't feel threatened in India. I'm very happy for people to walk around in India. It's a very easy place to be. Just another little mention, because the Marigold Hotel, of course, has an influence there. There's a place called Katu Cavalli, which is a guest house hotel. So $40 a night. It's not actually the Marigold Hotel, but it's where they filmed the BBC series called The Real Marigold Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Where celebrities stayed, and it was very famous, this series. They stayed there and they lived there. So you can actually stay in this place, but also It's inexpensive, and it's very well placed for all the bazaars and the city palace and things you'll want to do in Jaipur. When you get into the city palace, which is, you got to allow 3 hours. It's huge, but there's some really nice fabric shops in there as well. So particularly Anoki, which sells very fine clothing. So city palace, give yourself time for that.
And carry cash, I presume, for those.
Yeah, the money thing's interesting because, look, the main shops, you can use your credit card or your debit card, travel card without fear. The sort of shops I've mentioned where there's tailoring or there's jewellery, there's no problem using a card. ATMs, easy. Use your card, credit card, debit card. You'll get up to 10,000 rupees. Just if you put in 20,000, it'll say that it's declined, but it's only the amount. It doesn't always tell you why it's declined, by the way. So I'd get out 10,000 rupees at a time, which is 200 Australian dollars.
Okay.
Use your card for that, and then that's a fair bit of money. So tipping people, 100 rupees is $2. Buying thing off hawkers, it'll be 200 rupees, 300 rupees, 400 rupees, $4, $6, $8 for a little bag or a book or this or that, whatever you're buying, those sorts of things. So those are the sort of amounts you're looking for. And then the bigger stuff you can use your card for in a shop. But yeah, have money in your pocket. And tipping's part of the culture there. I really suggest to people, be prepared to tip because it will enhance your holiday. Leaving people, you come up and you shake their hand and you leave 100 rupees in their hand, or, if they've been fantastic, 500 rupees, which is $10, which is an enormous amount. But if you're leaving $100, $200, 200 rupees in their hand, 2 or 4 Australian dollars, it cements the relationship. It's an acknowledgement. It's respect. It's not about the money. And and they're feeling towards you, you're feeling towards them. It's not about the money, but tipping will really enhance your trip. Avoiding tipping, it doesn't fit India. That's just my opinion, and my advice is that if you put, $100 or a couple of $100 aside in your head for tipping, you'll have the best time ever, and you'll feel very connected to the people that you meet. Even if you give them a 500, the worst case scenario is that they're going to go home and feed their families. I know what I would think of as middle class, well earning Indian people who are desperately trying to buy a 2-room apartment. Not 2-bedroom, but a 2-room apartment for their families. With 2 kids, 2 of them, 2 kids, and for them a 2-room apartment is the dream. So, look, yeah.
Okay, what else?
We're now all familiar with this Delhi, Agra, Jaipur. There's a good argument. Well, I always like to add Udaipur to the end of that. This is the city so from Jaipur you travel on to, look, you could add Udaipur or Jaipur or even Varanasi to this. Jodhpur, I should say, or Varanasi to this. But I think Udaipur is a fabulous finish to the Golden Triangle Plus. It's the city of, white palaces around a lake. It's just that bit calmer. Water gardens, palace, nice little shopping areas, really good quality fabric shops, and you can just sort of, it's just a calmer place. It's a good note to end on. So I like to add Udaipur as a plus to the Golden Triangle. It's the right way to finish.
Nice. Okay. All right. Now on to some likes and dislikes. I'm sure there's lots of things that you like about India because you keep going back there. And
obviously I like the culture. I like the complexity. I like the chaos. I like the humour. Indians are funny. They're respectful. These are sweeping statements, of course. Even, I was there 2013. We're talking about when Australia won the World Cup. cricket against India, and the next day you think, it's been, but everyone coming up, where you're from, Australia, shaking hand, best team won, and very interesting, good losers, and love to talk about the game sort of thing. So yeah, I like all of that. I like 330 million Hindu gods. You get these main deities, and then they've all got 10 manifestations, and then they've got, I like the complexity and the Indian mind, which can place rapid chess in the sports pages of a newspaper next to Formula One because it's like the same thing. And, I find all that just so interesting. And I do, I'm not blind to the financial poverty, but richness and poverty are the two words that play in India. Richness of culture, yes, it's such a rich place. And we think about colours and culture and belief and, the fabric of society, how they are connected to their local area and their families and extended families. And I'm watching a friend of mine there really looking after his father, Indian friend, who's not well and aged, as an example to his children, saying, well, this is what happens. They don't have aged care like we in the Western world do. You stay in the family, and he's showing that I'm looking after my dad, brackets, this is what I expect, you to do for me. So it's this passing on of lifestyle and belief, I suppose. So I like all of that. And I say I like the chaos. I find it very relaxing. And I like the fact that things don't always happen. It's a good lesson for me. They don't always happen in a linear fashion. We're so A, B, C, D, E. And, things can happen. Things are just happening in a random order, and then suddenly it all comes together and you go, well, that's interesting. That we don't see them happening in a logical way to me. And yet they are happening in a random way, and then it all comes together. And I like that. It's good. I like that. It's good. And I love the fact that people approach you, talk to you, want to be photographed with you, and
there's curiosity.
Yeah, curiosity. Good word. Yeah.
Okay. Any dislikes?
I'm sort of struggling. Because the things you dislike, you like. Walking through the alleyways of old Delhi, where there's odd smells and this and that. You dislike some of the sights and things you see, but then, that is India.
Yeah, and that's just part of travel sometimes.
It's part of travel. So I'm struggling. The traffic, you can be driving up the wrong way of a street and all, because it's quieter on the other side of the road. Literally, you cross the white lines and you're driving up the side of the street, and the car's coming towards you, pulling over to let you through, and you go, why? This is nuts. So the traffic you don't like, but you do like as well. Crossing the road is one of those just walk out and they'll go around you things which you don't like, but that's how it works. Look, I do think just health wise, I don't like the fact that you can't just turn a tap on and there's safe water, but you get used to it. And any cut or graze, wash, clean very quickly. So I don't like the fact that you have to sort of be vigilant about that, but that's part of it too. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask, I imagine India is very busy, and the noise that would come from just the everyday sort of streets and things like that. When you're in a hotel, can you hear that noise that you stayed in?
No. Well, no. It's a good question. The good hotels are so well built. You can be in a room, it's completely silent. It's like weirdly silent. So no, you can be isolated from that. Just one experience in these little alleyways in Old Delhi, which we've just been talking about, which are crazy busy. You can walk off the alleyway into so there's little courtyards off, which are surrounded by buildings, people's homes in these little two-room places. I've said, if you walk into those courtyards, they're silent.
Right.
You're about 7 or 8 meters from the actual alleyway where there's people and bikes and everything going past. This cobbler's been sitting there 40 years doing people's shoes, and this person's been there for it's just that. But in the courtyard, it'll be really virtually silent. Yeah. So there are really quiet spaces there as well. But no, in hotels, you're not you're fine, you know. And in the fabulous hotels, the Taj Group, there's lots of palaces. For example, Jaipur, you know, the Jai Mahal Palace is just amazing. You know, it's a converted Maharaja's palace, and there's quite a lot of that. So they're wonderful places to stay for their heritage, and they're quiet.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to ask about accommodation and the different sort of types that they have in India. I mean, there must be everything from, you know, the lower budget end up to the really expensive 7-star.
Sure, exactly right. No, you're right. You know, 3-star is not our 3-star. You know, it'll be a pretty bare room, and I got to say that, you know, cleanliness is sort of an issue. You know, so people might be struggling with 3-star. It'll be cheap, but then, as I mentioned, the little Havelis and so on, family run. I mentioned the one in Jaipur, for example. So you can find accommodation for $400-500 a night, Australian dollars. So that's all there. Those will be in 8-10 room. Look for the word Haveli, which they use for those small guest houses. That works well. So if it's a family run, that works well. The Fabo hotels I've mentioned, converted palaces and so on. The Taj Group, which I love because it's Indian owned, started by the Tata family, famously because they took one of the Tatas took exception to the fact that some of this best hotel in Mumbai didn't allow Indians in. It was for white people. So he said, we'll start our own group. Of course, the Tata family make trucks, vehicles, steel, and the hotels really are, a lot of the profits from the hotels go into local community and projects. So the hotels are not exactly a plaything, but they're not a massive profit centre for the Tata Group. So Taj Hotels, fantastic. Leela Oberoi, obviously, these groups. I mean, you're going to pay $500 a night for really good hotels.
Yeah, you'll be comfortable for sure.
So you can mix that up with that and a bit of the family-run Havelis.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good suggestion. Look, also, there are places... look, I've got to say this. If anyone gets sick in the Golden Triangle, it'll be in Agra. So Agra has a different history. Agra is a Dalit town, which was, used to be untouchables. It was a town a city where the main industry was in leatherworks and, hides, treating hides. A lot of those places were shut because of the pollution which was affecting the Taj Mahal. It has a different sort of history, and I have a fantastic Indian friend, Narendra Singh Rator Bawadi, who tells me that Agra is what it is because it has more aggressive water. It comes from different river systems. So Agra is a different kettle of fish, and I think even the sort of convention businessy hotels are not a bad option there, because if anyone gets sick, it will be in Agra. Okay. So Agra, because of the aggressive water, it's a slightly different thing. Just be a bit more cautious there. Yeah.
And if you do get sick there, do you have any tips about what people should maybe pack?
Yes. Yes, I do. Firstly, there is a product called Travelan, which is a sort of kind of prepares your internal work. So it's something you take before meals, and I've done quite a lot of investigation into that, and a lot of people using it, and it's working. So Travelan is something to read about and think about. It may or may not suit you, but the absolute go-to in my travel bag is ground cumin. A quarter of a teaspoon of ground. If you're feeling, it's good for stability. Let me put it like that. If someone's feeling a bit, I don't know if I've done the wrong thing. A quarter of a teaspoon of ground cumin on your tongue, and just wash it down with bottled water. I pretty well promise you that in 10 to 15 minutes you'll go, that's interesting, I feel a lot better. So the ground cumin is a good trick if you're just catching things. But I'd take a broad-based antibiotic. In Australia, we can get this EDP powder, which is an antiseptic powder. Fantastic. Put it straight on cuts. Any cuts, anything that might get infection, wash it carefully. Cover things. Take plasters to cover things. Keep things covered if you've got a wound. If you've got internal stuff, obviously take your gastro stops, Remotin, whatever suits you, those sorts of things. But a good little first aid kit's really important.
Always, yeah. Okay.
Always.
Well, was there anything else that you thought we haven't covered? We've sort of covered a lot of ground.
We have covered a lot of ground. I think just to say this, that for the full experience, we've talked about food. And I do think with tours where meals are included are a good thing.
Okay. Because
you can be pretty sure those restaurants are going to be safe, that they use them a lot. And, if you've got tour groups going through a restaurant and everyone gets sick, they're not going to use that restaurant, right? So that's a pretty good guide if meals are included. Doses for breakfast, masala dosa for breakfast. You can drink the chai masala tea, get into the food, get into the music. And I'm very into classical Indian music, but I don't expect people to start there. I'll give you a tip. Ravi Shankar, we've all heard of Ravi Shankar, the sitar maestro. His daughter, 2 daughters actually, Nora Jones and Anushka Shankar. Anushka Shankar is a fantastic sitar player who also works with lots of other people. Nora Jones, obviously, Sting, you name it. So if you've got Spotify, look for This is Anushka Shankar, and it'll introduce you gently to a contemporary version of the Indian sound. So I think play the music, eat the food. There's plenty of good reading, good books on India, good novels. Read the fiction, watch Monsoon Wedding, and you're off.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting to us about the Golden Triangle in India, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks.